Welcome back. Now, in these busy times, the pressures of life can sometimes get too much for many of us, but there are some simple techniques that can be used to help us all cope at those times. And they're outlined in this book, Mindfulness on the Go, by psychotherapist Pádraig Ó Móráin. And Pádraig is with me now in studio. Pádraig, good morning. Thanks for coming in. It's doing very well. I believe it's selling quite well.
It's doing very well, yes. I'm just tracking it online, and it's been doing extremely well, heading up towards the bestseller zone, I'm glad to say. So the timing turns out to have been right.
This is it. There seems to be a market there. As I was saying, the stresses of modern life, having come through a bust in this country, are all these things playing into people suffering from stress and anxiety?
Yes, they are, because during the last boom, I can remember people saying, I don't have the time to do things for myself or with my kids. It's all go, go, go. Then we had the crash. Now we're heading not into a boom, but things are picking up again. So it's the same old problem of people having demands. You finish something, you can't really say, oh, well, I've done that, that's great. It's also, what's next, or what did I not do? What did I miss out? So I think all of that creates a demand for something like mindfulness to help people to just step back and pause a little bit, and to get out of what's going on in their heads all the time.
And it's not necessarily what might have been called meditation in years gone by. It is a different thing to that.
It's a different thing. Certainly as I teach it, and in that book, mindfulness is a skill that you bring into your everyday life. If you could do it as a meditation, and many people do, where you might meditate for 20 minutes or 30 minutes being aware of your breathing, but many people find that they start to do that, then life gets in the way, and they don't have that space, either in terms of time or in terms of a place. And then they kind of fall by the wayside and they feel bad about it. I think it's better to build it into your day through little practices like just becoming aware of your breathing for a few moments, becoming aware of your feet against the floor as you're walking around, even in your place of work or around your home.
And when you say aware of your breathing, what do you mean by that?
So, for example, you might notice that when you're breathing, that you can feel the breath going in at your nostrils, let's say, or you might be aware of your breathing in your chest. It varies from one person to another, or in your throat. And what you're doing, and just bringing your attention back into that, is you're returning your attention again and again from thoughts of the past, maybe regrets, resentments, and so on, and from the anxiety and worry about the future, and you're returning just to something in your present moment, which is what the breath is doing. So it's just a way of training yourself to get into the present moment.
I mean, there's an interesting, simple technique you had. You might just explain the 7-11 to us.
7-11 means that as you're breathing in, you count to 7, and then as you're breathing out, you count to 11. And what that does is that you've got to bring your attention into what you're doing, otherwise you can't do it because of the counting. And then secondly, you get a longer out breath, and a longer out breath tends to be calming and to give people a sense of presence of mind. It's just because of the way it works with your central nervous system. Some people find 7-11, by the way, is too much, that they're sort of gasping at the 11. So something like 5-7 works equally well, so you just adapt it for yourself.
And you focus in on. Now, it's written so wonderfully. It's written just like somebody chatting to you. Yeah. And you've done it in the form of, there's chapters, there's little sort of kind of tidbits of information, and then at the end of each chapter you give us the on-the-go brief of the different things. You might maybe explain to me one thing. And people probably do mix the two of them up. Stress and anxiety, you say, they're two different things.
Yeah, well, to me, stress, you can look on stress as a kind of a short-term thing. You might feel a certain amount of stress if it's the last minute of a game and the two sides are level and the outcome is going to be very, very important. There's a penalty. Everybody is feeling stress while they're waiting for that ball to go in or not go in. But once it's happened, the stress is more or less over.
Okay.
If you were worrying about that game for a couple of weeks coming up to it, that's anxiety. It's more long-term. It's just a way that I'm using the two words. Of course, you can get long-term stress, which we could also call anxiety, but I'm just making a distinction between the stress that is just comes into every day, is just part of things, and the anxiety that is more corrosive because it goes on and on and on and is bad for your health.
And that sort of thing can also lead to depression, which you also mention in the book.
It can, because when we have that level of stress, we can start thinking too much, we can start ruminating and brooding. And brooding and ruminating are very much linked with depression, and especially with the return of depression if somebody experiences it every now and then. If they practice mindfulness when they are not depressed, it greatly reduces the relapse rate. That has been found. For that reason, mindfulness is recommended by the NHS as a treatment for depression. So it's staying out of the past and the future in your head and just again and again coming back into the present. But our brains are designed in such a way that we naturally go into imagination, the past, the future. So there's no point in giving out to yourself for drifting away. It just happens. You just accept that. And that's the other thing about mindfulness, is that you're doing it with acceptance. You're not complaining to yourself because you drifted away.
Right.
If there's a very nice day outside here, and so if I went out and it was bucketing rain, acceptance doesn't mean that I like the fact that it's raining. It just means that I do not spend a lot of time and energy complaining to myself.
Because there's nothing you can do to change it.
I can do about it.
Yeah.
Just carry an umbrella or bring a raincoat or something, you know. And it's a bit like that with a lot of the stress.
Focus on the positive.
Yeah.
Well, Pádraig, listen, there's a lot of, well, it's a quick read and you can bring it with you on the go and you can just look at the little snippets, as I was saying. But a very good book, Mindfulness on the Go, and thank you very much for coming into us this morning.
Thank you. Many thanks.